What is going on, guys? Happy Wednesday. Hopefully everyone's doing fantastic today. Dmitri, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing yourself, Devin?
Wonderful, thank you. I was laughing in the chat. The Canadian podcast, you're getting full Canadian today, a full package deal. Both ends of the country. What's going
Yeah, I
on?
think we cover the whole continent right there, literally.
Perfect. Yeah, we got you covered. So yeah, today, we've both done a lot of different experience in different tanks over the many years, and we figure we talk about different reefing kind of methods. What are you currently doing? What's works? Why do you like certain ones or don't you? And yeah, if there's any questions along the way, of course, we'll dig into those as well. So the background is actually, I just stole your latest YouTube video, so you're getting random clips of it as we're chatting. So I got the live background today. So how you been
Yes,
doing?
I've been doing great. As a matter of fact, it's been a little bit of up and downs lately because of the summer. I was spending too much time outside, and then it was very hard for me to go in and like do anything with the corals,
Mm-hmm.
especially on this big tank where I need now, something to like a ledge to step on, and then you need to have a towel and you have to remove your shirt. So all of those things, when I even see a couple of corals touching each other, I'm just kind of letting it go. And then guess what? 2 days later, the colony is dead,
Ah,
and I'm the one to blame. So to answer your question, about 2 weeks ago, I just kind of made a resolution where every day, every other day, I'm just going to spend an hour and just do whatever with the tank. And what
that's
you
good.
see there,
Mm-hmm.
it actually is the result of that.
Oh, very good. Nice.
Yeah.
Normally, I was just going to ask, how is your tank's probably happy with keeping your arms out of it, but then you said you lost a colony, so that killed that one. But
Yeah.
what corals are fighting?
Yes. What about you? How are you doing in the last few weeks?
Overall, pretty good. I have a couple of corals in my main tank. We're not quite so happy.
Hmm.
Um, Mainly, the main one was the rainbow loom. And I remember talking to Adam a while ago, and he had issues with his when he was low in potassium, which
Hmm.
very well could be because I used to be dosing hydroxides, which had potassium, and I quit that a while ago. So very well could have been depleted or low. So I got motivated and did a couple water changes on the system. So hopefully that helps a bit. But I might actually send off an ICP test just to kind of see where things at because it's been a long, long time since I've done one.
And have you tested potassium?
No, I should.
Really?
I don't.
So how would you know?
Um, Speculation of why, just because I know that coral's one of the ones for low potassium, it won't do well.
Mm,
So that's kind of my speculation based off that. But
interesting.
I don't know. I have this weird kind of back and forth with myself where you're like, okay, something's a bit off. Do you send an ICP, see what's off, and fix it, or do you just do a bunch of water changes and kind of reset things a little bit? But
Yeah. No, I hear you. But how are your other aquariums doing?
the rest are pretty good. The Nias had a little bit of a battle with some dinos, which got over fairly quickly, which was nice.
Hmm.
And my Nano is pretty good, other than a bit of Cyano. Yep,
I see. How long you've had your nano up now?
5 or 6 months probably. Yeah,
Okay. Well,
I see a Nano in your background.
yeah, this is right over there. I don't know if actually let's just zoom out a little bit here. Yes. So I've got the Hello Reef.
Nice.
I just received it today, and it's kind of a minimized version just
Mm-hmm.
because I think across the border, because we're in Canada, they couldn't ship the rocks and the live bacteria. Otherwise, it's a full-on system. But I'm
Nice.
super excited about it. I've heard a lot of good things of, and I was kind of, because I do a lot of now video production from this room. Now
Mm-hmm.
I actually do have a little aquarium there, so I'm super stoked.
Perfect. No, that's awesome. Well, we'll have matching little tanks soon. I'm curious to see what you do with it.
Yeah. What was your experience like?
Overall, they're slick little systems. It's cool that it comes with everything you absolutely need. So it's a really cool standpoint from a tank.
Hmm.
Um, if you're new, I think it makes it really easy, and if you're seasoned, it just makes a very nice, easy tank for you. So I kind of went Ghani heavy in mine, and then other stuff snuck in as I did a chank change and stuff. But my original plan was only Ghanis, but that failed miserably, as there's some Zoas and rock flowers and a few other things in there
Right.
now. But
And how would the guanis in a tank like this?
I would say majority of them are very happy. I had one or two that didn't fare quite as well, but the rest
Hmm.
all did well. That could have just been the source of the Gaunies or what happened. They could have been fresh fragged. I'm not 100% on them.
Not
Uh,
to derail the topic, but
yeah.
how's your guani methodology? Like, I mean, what's your trick on making it happy,
I have
keeping
done
happy?
absolutely nothing special in my water box, and my Gaunies have thrived and been phenomenal. I know manganese and a few of those things tend to be have an effect on them.
Hmm.
In the nano tank, I'm trying to keep this tank as simple as possible, and I've only been dosing Ulf Reef in there, which has that stuff. I've done nothing else to it. I've never tested it, done nothing. I've literally only dosed that. And so far, overall, I'm gonna
Hmm.
say 85% of the Gaunies are happy, and there's a couple, one that got stinged, another one that receded a bit, but the rest are all happy. So
That's sweet.
yeah. So
Well,
so how about you? What's your plans for the new nano?
I've been thinking about it. I mean, it says right on the box, clown and anemone. So
Yep.
the easy solution is to just kind of have a rock and a bunch of anemones. I get so many
Mm-hmm.
bubble tips that it's going to be pretty easy. But my experience with anemones has always been you got to wait 3-4 months at least before you put them in, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if somebody is getting a new Hello Reef, if that's necessarily something that you want to get into right away with. Um, so probably there will be something
Mm-hmm.
like this, but this is also a good experience good opportunity to have some really small fish.
Mm-hmm.
The Hector goby and maybe the neon goby and all of the other ones. Hopefully they
Yep.
don't jump, but things where you can really get up close. Maybe get the pom pom crab. So like basically go to nanoreef.com and just kind of look at the top
Yeah.
gallery and try to emulate something like that. This is kind of my thinking.
I you do bring up a good point. There's tons of super cool microfish that would normally get lost in a big system. And that's kind of where
Hmm.
nanos shine is you can appreciate them. So I put tons of tiny little random creatures and inverts in mine just because they're fun to find. You kind of
Having
forget you have
said
them sometimes. Also, and you're like, oh yeah, there's all those little guys.
Yeah, but I've been thinking a little bit about it, and actually, on a large system, it's also pays off if you have like a really tiny fish that you see like once a year, because when you actually do see it, it's a really exciting feeling right there,
Yep.
kind of thing. So yeah,
No, it's true. I have a fire shrimp in there, and I only see him. I feel like when I feed the tank or randomly he'll pop up. I'm like, oh yeah, almost forgot about that guy.
yes.
Kind of makes it more special when they're slightly elusive.
How long
Um,
have you had the longest where there would be a fish or a creature that you would put in and then you would not see it, and then like, oh my god, I actually still have it. I forgot about it completely.
Flaming prawn goby.
Ooh, tell me.
I saw that thing once every week or two. It was the most elusive fish I've ever owned in my life. It was like that big, looked
Yeah.
phenomenal, but so
Yeah.
tiny. And I would think he was a goner, and like 2 weeks later, I'd be like, oh, there he is. It's like a special occasion. And I've had. I'm pretty sure I can't remember what fish it was. I'm pretty sure it's a wrasse. One of those ones where I didn't see it for weeks, and then one day I'm like, oh, there it is. And it's, when it was a new fish, it just hit all the time, and then once it got comfortable, it started to be out and about.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So you were gonna say something.
Oh, in the chat, Phil Reefkeeper Phil says, "I think it's a myth about an enemies. I've added several to a brand new tank. When you first put them into, I like to put them in first to establish a spot. Yeah, I
Hmm.
thought, yeah, I have put an enemies in fairly new systems too. I don't think I've had them die or have any issues per se. But yeah, they will walk around quite a bit until they find a spot they like.
Yeah, but so what does happen longer term with those aquariums where on day one, even with the nitrogen cycle fully complete,
Mm-hmm.
there's still like maybe the biofilm or other things that there's many other creatures that kind of freak out about. I mean, I remember Adam at Bell Corals talking about like where the guy is super experienced, but when he started his farm for the
Mm-hmm.
first year, he had trouble with the SPS,
Yeah.
and he didn't know why. And I've started probably over 20 reef aquariums over the past 10 years, and almost all of them was kind of similar experience. But I had this nano tank, which was 17-gallon long, innovative marine one, and
Mm-hmm.
there was no frills, nothing. I just would
Yep.
take frags, put them in there. I get a Nero pump and I think a skimmer, and that's it. There was nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, starting day one, the corals that I would put in there had better colors than in my 400-gallon farm. And
Yep.
I still like don't know why. What was really happening?
Hmm. So
Hmm.
I guess here's the magic question. Are you going to
Yes.
pretend you're a new reefer and start as the new rock, or are you going to steal a bit of established goodness from your tank and kind of jumpstart it?
That's a very good question. Well, first of all, the issue is you cannot really get any good live rock nowadays, at least in Toronto. Like I
Mm,
call around, and almost everybody is kind of going, "We don't have anything."
yep.
So unless somebody's shutting down their system, you cannot really get stuff. Where 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you could go to any local store and they would have piles and piles and piles of rock, $7
Mm-hmm.
a pound or whatever it is, and it was sometimes phenomenal. Or you could order in and you get the Fiji and all of that stuff. Um, so I would reuse my rock from one of my systems, but I don't have any spare rock
Mm-hmm.
because I make huge use of all the rock that I have. Like I have all the corals growing. So even in my farm, I have a lot of pieces of rock where I attach certain corals so that they grow.
Yep.
Um, and I'm a little bit skeptical of starting a tank with a brand new
Mm-hmm.
rock, at least in my case. So I don't know. Hopefully, I can luck out and maybe pick up a few nice branches from one of the stores and try to do that. Um,
Inherit
that's
some
the plan.
established goodness.
Yeah.
Yep. I
What about you? When you started it, what did you do?
I'm pretty sure I snuck a bit of media in from my established
Hmm.
tank,
Yeah.
and then the rest was new. But I think I threw a big of like Cyperax. I've been a fan of Cyperax lately because a lot of surface area, but I threw some in my sump for about a
Hmm.
month in my water box, and I threw it in the chamber when I added this one. I cycled it without it, but I added that once I added fish and some more live stuff just for a
Oh,
little
nice.
extra goodness. And same thing with the NAS tank. I threw a couple liters of it in my other sump for a month or two before I got this tank rolling, just to bring in a little extra goodness. So
That's pretty
I,
cool.
yeah, I think any way you can bring in that goodness is going to help. And
That's
I've
true.
even been as far as trying to bribe some people I know coral farms to give me some media from their sump, just to help age, my new NAS tank a little bit. So might work on that
Plus,
one.
you want the diversity, right? It's one of the biggest aspects
Mm-hmm.
of it. One of my early tanks, one of my first tanks that I had, which was a 100-gallon Winterfell Reef, should date, when the HBO show
Yeah.
just came out. I actually went to, I don't know, like 8 local stores, and I
Mm-hmm.
picked up a single rock from each one of them. I did it by the book, and it was
Nice.
incredible from that perspective. So I think variety is a spice of life for sure.
Yep. I'm definitely with you on that one. So in not so much fun the other night, I in the night I thought I heard something beeping and I wasn't sure and I was like, oh no, it's nothing.
Okay.
And in the morning, I woke up to a nice wet spot by my tank, and I have my kelp reactor sitting on top of a skimmer stand, and that apparently one side of it gave in and it tilted
Oh,
my calc reactor. So whatever calc was going in through the night, that 4 or 5 liters was overflowing out onto my stand and my floor. So that sucked.
oh,
So
and main floor?
yeah, I mean, it wasn't
Ugh,
too bad, but I had a nice wet spot by the tank and, not something you want to deal with on the way to work first thing in the morning. So that
no.
happened. So it got me thinking, should I try running, not that this is at all related to the calc, but should I try
Hmm.
running my tank without calc for a bit? So I might actually pull off the calc washer for a little bit and just try it without it for a little bit and see if I notice much of a difference.
How big is the tank?
200 gallons.
And what is the primary one? The
That's
dozer?
calcium reactors probably does the majority of it, and then I do
Oh, okay.
dose on top of it. So
So you do those, and then there was also the calcwasser as a third
yeah,
thing.
multiple
Yeah,
methods.
yeah. Keep it simple. I know
Okay,
it's
so speaking of methodologies,
yes,
a lot of that tank at least is the special
yeah.
blend of absolutely everything.
Hmm.
Basically, I went from calcium reactor, adding in calc, Then I had
Hmm.
alpha reef dosing. Prior to that, I was dosing hydroxides on there. And at one point, with all these methods combined, I had phenomenal pH. Everything was super happy.
Yeah.
I pulled off a lot of the hydroxides, see how this is going to go, just had the calc on there. And of course, my pH, everything else started tanking again. So then I threw a little soda lime back on the skimmer to kind of balance out not having the other hydroxides, which boosted up again. But yeah, I experiment far too much on that tank.
Yeah, if it only was your full-time job, kind of like late Jake Adams, where he could, have his beer and then go
Yep.
around and this is going to be my hydroxy tank and this is going to be my plain tank and I'm going to compare the two and this is my life and friends come over and drink more beer
Yep.
kind of thing.
Hey, it's a good way to go.
Yeah, that's true. So, sorry. So, what methodology are you kind of sticking with right now?
Well, the depends on the tank. So the
Hmm.
nano and the NAS tank, both of those, I'm trying to make myself keep it simple. So I'm only dosing all free on both of those tanks. Very, very simple.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Um, I think it'd be a little on the expensive side to do that on the main water box, but I also suffer from pH issues because I have too many fish, and I also have a calcium reactor, which isn't the best for pH purposes.
Hmm.
So I might take off the calc for a bit
Hmm.
and the soda lime on the skimmer just to see, and then I
Hmm.
might dose, a smaller amount of hydroxides again just to see how that balances things out. But we'll see. what
Interesting.
what are you doing on your systems?
Well, I think I can certainly relate. I gravitate. I have the same tendency where if I see some, YouTube video or a thread or something, and I see some amazing tank and somebody's doing the coral snow, for example, and they
Mm-hmm.
swear by it, I'm like, okay, well, it makes sense. Let's try to add that. And then somebody's dosing benefits. Let's do that. Let's do Cheeto or remove Cheeto because it's the
Yep.
worst thing ever, and I'll just kind of go in and do that. So
Mm-hmm.
and after a while, you just have same kind of ecosystem where you have 20 different things, and the hobby you stop enjoying it, to be honest with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because your whole weekend is spent tweaking each one of them. If something goes wrong, you have no idea which one it was. So I don't know. I really want to get as simple as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I've always done the dozer,
Mm-hmm.
and the last 3 or 4 years, I've really been relying on Kalkwasser a lot. So as a matter of fact, I would say right now it's my primary way to increase the parameters. And I actually the tank that you see behind you, it's 6 months old
Mm-hmm.
and it's full stock of coral and it's still only on Kalkwasser for whatever reason.
Nice.
I
Looks
think
good.
some of it has to do with the fact that the corals are still fairly new, so they
Mm-hmm.
just kind of haven't done it. I know that, let's say, if everybody's going to be super happy and it's going to start really growing,
Mm-hmm.
then I won't be able to even close to support that with this.
Yep.
I've never used calcium reactor
Mm-hmm.
ever, but I think dozer is kind of the way to go. I do like the fauna system. It kind of makes sense to me because they also add those trace elements. So I
Yep.
feel kind of good that I add
Nice.
not more just the calcium, but those two bottles of whatever. I'm not sure how much it actually does,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's it. And on this tank right now, I've been running Cheeto primarily because of I'm trying to lower a little bit the nutrients because they're pretty high. So,
Yep. Yeah, no, I did this similar thing where I didn't use
yep.
Cheeto forever, and I recently put it
Mm.
back on to try and suck down my nutrients a bit, and it's definitely been helping. In
Oh
fact,
yeah.
like I gotta pull some out because I think it's that chamber's pretty much full now. But
Do you add iron to compensate for whatever the Cheeto is going to be extra hungry for? This kind
no,
of thing.
yes and no. Not specifically iron, but recently I have been dosing the ANK. I think I have on a doser right now. The
What's
tropic marine
what?
ANK. It's their blend of trace elements. So I haven't
Oh, okay.
specifically tested or ICP'd in way too long. I do plan on doing it soon just to see where things are at, but that's currently on the doser. I used to dose them all separate, but I'm slowly trying to simplify, even though
Hmm.
I'm not simple. But yeah,
Yeah. The thing that really freaks me out is the moonshiner method and all of that stuff. It kind of makes sense,
Yeah.
but I can't imagine having 200 bottles of every single thing and then trusting the ICP on that and doing that.
It works, but yeah, you need to keep up on it and definitely pay more attention to your tank, and it makes you pay more attention to your tank rather.
Yeah.
Okay, question from the chat 3 minutes ago. Ryan Washington, both of you, what are your thoughts on dosing calc without a pH monitor? If you're just using a calc reactor, then I would
Hmm.
say that's probably fine. I don't think you're going to go crazy high with just that. If you're mixing multiple pH boosting methods, then I'd want to monitor a little bit more. But I don't think you're going to go too high on calc alone, especially without exceeding your evaporation and raising your sump level and all that jazz.
Yeah, I think that unless you have an accident
Mm-hmm.
where you spill it, or let's say you've programmed it wrong and now your doser, put in 3 liters of it at once,
Mm.
or something along these lines. So if you just do it on a regular basis, I've never seen the calc water getting pH too high, from kind of my easiness. So
Yep.
from that perspective, I don't think you need a pH at all.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't bother too much. If you're mixing methods though, then I would consider it, because if you use like the little soda lime pellets for your skimmer, I mean that's going to
Hmm.
boost it. If you use calc, that's going to boost it. If you play with nasty stuff that you shouldn't, like hydroxides, that's really going to boost it. So there's a lot of, once you start mixing them, there's a lot of different more variables. But just calc alone, don't think I'd worry
Yeah.
about it.
So how high did you get your pH? Like what was your
Oof.
kind of highest?
Probably 8.6 or 8.7, something like that.
Ooh,
It was
that's
pretty good for a while.
that's like Channingham Reef territory right there.
Yep.
Like, oh my God.
Wonder if I can go that far back in my graphs, but yeah, I was definitely up there for a
Oh
while.
wow.
When mixing the methods, was a bit of magical happening there for pH purposes. It's not even that I care to get it that high, it's just that I don't like
Hmm.
it dropping too low.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. But there's so
Yeah.
many factors, right? You've just mentioned the fish, and then people, and how often you have your windows open. In the summertime, it's brutal as
Yep.
well
So,
because yeah.
okay, prime example. 7.68 is how low it dropped. Then
Oh
I was like, yeah, that's too low. That's why I put the soda lime pellets back on. And
yeah.
now, like last night, 7.82 is the lowest. So I don't even care that much about the high. I just don't like it too low. That's kind of my thing.
Hmm. Tell me, how do the soda lime pellets work?
So it's essentially like kalkwasser in pelletized form, but it's soda lime, and they absorb CO2. So you can buy different brand ones. The ones I buy is like veterinary supply type ones. I buy a
Oh,
5 gallon bucket for like $150 and lasts me a year
oh,
plus.
so like a CO2 scrubber.
Yeah,
That's really what
yeah,
we're talking about. Okay, I gotcha. So,
yeah. So I put that back on just in kind of a recirculating mode on the skimmer. So
mhm.
it just scrubs the CO2 out, and that helps boost it up.
Okay, so I do run it on both of my tanks, but
Okay.
I could never really understand what's the point of circulating it. Like, there's all these different methods to
Yeah.
circulate, right? You can kind of do a closed loop almost of some
Hmm.
sort, where you have this modification to the skimmer, and then it just kind of goes
That's
like
what I
this.
did basically.
So can you explain to me how that works? And like start with like where the two tubes go in on the skimmer.
Okay, so I basically have a canister sitting on top of my skimmer lid.
Yes.
So it sucks up through the skimmer lid through the media, and I put a little
Yeah.
barb fitting in the side of that container, and I put that to the venturi on the skimmer. Now, the purpose of doing it this method is the
Mm-hmm.
soda lime works better with moist air. So you're taking the moist air from the skimmer, which makes it a bit
Mm.
more efficient, and you're recirculating it. Now, it's not having to scrub as much CO2 from the room air, where it's more
Yes.
scrubbing the tank air in a sense. So you get a little more of a boost out of it, and your media
Yeah.
lasts longer. So that's why I do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. And it doesn't get too soaky, like moist, or none
Nope.
of that stuff?
I've seen some people's where they've had a separate canister kind of beside it, and if it got too moist, theoretically,
Hmm.
it could build up in the bottom, and that could be bad. But I've
Hmm.
always built mine that just sit on top of the skimmer lid, so the air travels up through it, so there's not really a way for water to ever collect inside of it. So it's never been an issue.
Interesting. I
Yep.
get just kind of hooked up mine to that little thing in the in the top of the skimmer,
Yep.
so that the air intake kind of happens this way.
Hmm. But yeah, just the moist air, it makes it last longer. Like I know even
Hmm.
sometimes they recommend put a little bit of RODI water on the bottom of the canister to keep the air
Mm,
moist, and that helps. But
okay.
yeah, so that's the main
Well,
one.
I'll research. And how much would it kind of increase your pH? Would you say?
I've never. It's been a while since I ran it any other way, so it's hard to say.
Hmm.
But the biggest thing is I find the media lasts longer too than that method, so
Mm,
makes it cheaper.
interesting.
It's a good sales
How
pitch for
often
it.
do you how often do you change your media?
I changed it a week ago, so ask me in a little bit, and I'll tell you when it drops.
But like, would you say like every 6 months or
Mm,
once a year?
it depends how big your canister is in media. My
Yeah.
original super crazy one, I had like 3 foot tubes of it in my attic pulling in outside air, was like my original version of this. And now it's
Yeah.
just a little dinky canister on top of it. So that one would last ages, but I also had ridiculous amounts of media in it. And now it's just like this little dinky thing on top. So, but it lasts well. I don't know. I honestly haven't paid attention. I just look at my tank one day and see my pH is too low and over change it. But
Oh, nice.
I'll pay
Okay.
attention to it next time. I'll tell you in the near
And it
future.
doesn't change color on you, or you need the special ones that do like become purple or stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it will. It's not
Yeah.
quite as, it's more subtle, but you can tell it changes.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Now you're making me think I should leave the calc on there. We'll see. I
Well,
like the attic video.
lately it hasn't been in vogue, right? I mean, there's been a lot of kind of complaining about the cog that it changes the is it the ionic balance or something in the aquariums. I've listened to that. A few people are talking about this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know you said you're dosing fauna. I know the fauna is not as
Yeah,
a fan of calc on that
yeah,
side,
Claude,
but
right? So,
yeah, from Claude. But I mean, there's tons of people that use calc and it obviously works, right? Helps your pH. Like if you have high phosphates, it can bind some of it.
hmm.
Like there is definitely some benefits to it. I guess, how often do you top off your calc? Do you have a calc reactor or do you pre-mix it and then just dose?
I have the what's I think considered the gold standard, the Avast Marine. What is
Good
it,
choice.
M2 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I say it's gold standard just because most folks that are serious kind of use them,
I have
but
that one
that
too.
design never made sense to me. I
Hmm.
think if you go back to I think what you were doing in your experiments and whatnot with the magnetic stir,
Yep.
that concept to me makes a lot more sense. Like, don't do just the slow sludge thing. You want to
Hmm.
just have as much there up to the point where only the top layer that over
Hmm.
spills is the one that should be fairly clear, but the rest make it all kind of sludgy.
Yep.
Or maybe even just do the whole thing sludgy and then just let it all drop. Like, who cares?
So I've done that before as well.
Yeah.
I guess the main issue with the magnetic one is you have a
Hmm.
limit of how much calc you can add to it before you overwhelm the magnet. And then it can risk
Sure.
spinning it off, and then it's annoying when it spins off. So you kind of got to like watch how much you add. So that'd be the downfall of the
Yes.
magnetic version. As for dosing, the calc milk, that can
Hmm.
work as well. And you're basically just finishing dissolving it in your tank. And I've done that as well. But the main
Yeah.
advice I'd have there is just make sure it's somewhere turbulent in your sump so that it kind of finishes dissolving there. Now, the counter argument to that
Hmm.
is calc is fairly dirty, and there's a lot of impurities in calc water. So, is there
Do
an
we
issue?
care?
I don't. Well, this is the next caveat.
Yeah.
So you could be adding impurities to your tank. Now, my personal
Yeah.
opinion is if you never do a water change, eventually that might bite you in the butt. But if you do periodic water changes, you probably dilute it. It probably will never be an issue. So that's my thoughts.
I'm surprised that nobody still hasn't really redone the calcwaster. There's all these talks. There was the whole conversation about the sludge. There was the Chris Meckley method, and this and that, but like there's still no solution that just kind of go, yeah, this is the most efficient and like
Mm-hmm.
non-wasteful way of doing it. Because with the Avast, first of all, there you have all that sludge. It's very hard to um, and understand how much really of it is active or inactive, because this
Yep.
whole potency thing also changes, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
pH over a week will change, and then the amount of air
Yep.
contact and things like that. So nobody has really figured this one out, but it sounds like it's an engineering problem that probably some engineer at some point should be able to solve it.
I have ideas to make a improved version. I just haven't hasn't happened yet. One day, I'll make the one that's in my head, but give you more flexibility on how you want to run it.
Write me down on a list. I'd love to try out yours. So there you
Sounds
go.
good.
Yes.
Um, it might happen one day. There's some good potential. So yeah, so with calc, I mean, there's definitely advantages to it.
Hmm.
Do you, so you said you're dosing the fauna on your tank. What are you doing their full system? Like, what are you actually, what's on a doser? What's going into your
Uh,
system?
you know what? Over time, it changed a little bit, and then it kind of changed back to the original. So the
Mm-hmm.
original has always been the dry part, so calcium, alkalinity, and some magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
I did experiment with the fourth one being potassium nitrate. So I would do that. But right now, I think my nitrates are kind of perfect. They don't really go too high or too low. So I've kind of
Mm-hmm.
dialed it in. So I've removed it. And lately, I have actually been so lazy topping off the dosers that I do it the wrong way, which is I just use my Apex. I
Yeah.
wake up in the morning, or I get the alert. Your calcium is too low, or your
Mm-hmm.
alkalinity or magnesium. I just go get. I don't even know the millimeters or whatever, or the liters. I just fill up like half a cup of whatever,
Yeah.
throw that in, and then I wait till like noon for it to retest. And
The
then if
nest.
it's not enough, I'll just do it again. And this is how I've been running two of my the farm and this tank for the past several months.
Yeah. Do you know what's
Yeah,
funny? There's merit to this. I've watched some theories about, dosing all of your stuff at once too.
yeah,
The support of why that's good.
yeah.
Years ago, I did a video with. Did you ever meet Wincy?
Yeah, I remember. I think we touched upon it on the
Yeah,
last podcast. Which, like, this is
she just.
exactly was her method,
Mm-hmm.
and the proof is in the pudding. One of the
Yep,
best looking tanks out there.
I
So,
know. So I mean, there's merit to it, and I just laughed because last night too, I'm like, oh, both my tanks are low on magnesium. I literally took like a 60-ounce jelly cup, scooped out a big thing of magnesium,
yeah.
bloop, into each sump, and that just reminded me to check what the levels are at. But yeah, no, it's just funny. It's just like some stuff you can just do that.
So since this is a confessional right now, a reef confessional, maybe
Yep.
that's an
What do you
idea
got?
for a podcast. I've been doing the same with salinity. So
Yeah.
I have the automatic salt, the water change thing, and
Mm-hmm.
over time, I'm using Mobius the Versa, and it just drifts, and it's such a pain to calibrate, especially if things are in different places, unless you
Mm-hmm.
just do it yourself. So I'm just kind of measuring the salinity, and then
Mm-hmm.
I just take a bucket. So either I take the bucket of salt and putting the fresh water,
Yeah.
or I just take half a cup and I throw it in the sump.
Yeah.
And you know what? It works like no problem. It
I've
makes
done
it.
similar in the past when it's low, but I put some in like a deli cup and had a little like one of those little stir stick pointer rods. And once in a while,
Yeah,
I'll just give it a little stir, some more to slowly dissolve out of it and like ease it back up to salinity. I've done that too.
yeah.
Yep.
So
Ah, you gotta
it
love it.
works just fine. Yeah.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? So it's there's a bazillion different methods for a tank. There's a lot of ways to run a system. So it's always interesting to see what works for other people. Have you had any issues? Does it been smooth?
Yeah. Keeping
Yeah.
it simple. I think this should be kind of the main point of today's video, is trying to kind of come back to that golden
I'm
rule.
trying very hard to keep my current two tanks in my office simple. Where the
Hmm.
water box, I'm so crazy, but I might simple. I don't know. I've been debating if I want to dose hydroxides again. I shouldn't
Hmm.
talk about this because you should not dose them because they're trouble. But it's one of those things. But it works so well for pH.
Yes, yes. I've never used it myself. I think when we did our last video, you got the Nias.
Yes.
How is that?
It is a very beautiful system.
Okay.
I it started out very strong. Kind of pre-cycled my rock,
Mm-hmm.
pre-cycled my media, transitioned most of my stuff from another tank into it.
Mm-hmm.
Decided to throw in some tester corals, some fancier tester corals, which I just fragged for my big tank, so it wasn't a big deal.
Yep.
And all was well. I went on vacation for 2 weeks and came back, and the tank was absolutely covered in dinos. So that sucked. The
Oh.
coral, the glass, everything, absolutely just caked in it. So I beat that fairly quick, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I lost 2 out of 3 of the fancy corals I put in the tank.
Oh, that's
Yeah, so
never a good thing. So.
I had a branch of Walt Disney which bit the dust, and I
Oh.
had some Hellfire Millie. But oddly, I also put an Orange Passion. That one's encrusting, thriving, happy as because of clam. So, but it was interesting. But they were still alive and fine, covered in
Mm-hmm.
dinos. But as the couple days of like blackout and dealing with dinos, then I don't know, they bit the dust. So that was a little bit odd,
Yeah.
but just the fact that like the Orange Passion's happy as could be, I don't know. So we'll see. I'm gonna order up some more corals soon and get some more life in there. I threw a few chunks of coral from my other tank that were just like sitting on my
Mm-hmm.
sand bed, just to add a little diversity for now. But
That's nice.
Anton's yeah, Anton says treasure corals is one of my favorite to watch updates for. There you go. Oh yeah.
Anton's got a good taste right there. So
Yep.
yes.
Good stuff.
Thanks.
So
Um,
yeah.
sorry, just for dinos, what was the cause? Do you think
Um
the
could have been
bottoming out of nutrients or something else?
because I hadn't
Yeah.
tested nitrate or phosphate up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a bunch of food on the auto feeder when I was gone, so I assumed it would have been high if anything. I did test it after I beat the dinos, and they were at
Mm-hmm.
acceptable levels, so it was fine. I
Okay.
did add my sketched UV to my sump, which worked
Yeah.
amazingly well to get rid of them. 2-day blackout along with UVC running 24/7 in there killed off 95% of them. And then for fun, did you see Mo's little sandbed sweeper that he made?
No. I did see your
So
do-it-yourself
I was
picture.
yeah, so I had that. So I made my own UV sterilizer, which lives in my sump now. So
That's
that's the spin
incredible.
in there, and it seems to be doing the job. But I also got this off him to play with, and it's basically like a sandbed sweeper. So you can just basically flash and give it a good 10 seconds of UVC directly on the sand to kind of kill off the stuff on the top layer. I was
Oh
like,
my
that's a really
God.
cool idea. So I give him huge props for that because I think it's a very slick.
Wow. Okay. I
Yep.
will. I'll make a point of it.
Yep. But yeah, so I don't know. Overall, it seems they're 99% gone and the tank's back to happy again. So that's where the NIAS is at.
Very nice.
Yep.
Are you gonna add any kind of fish that you otherwise would not have?
So most of the fish so far is from my other tank. They just kind of moved
Hmm.
into it.
Yeah.
I probably will try and add some different stuff. I don't know what yet, but I'm probably going to get a copper band again soon just because sadly mine decided to leap out like the night before my tank move.
The copper band.
Yes, I know. Never
They
thought that.
are. They're like heavy and they're not a jumper per se.
No, I don't. Maybe it even happened when I was starting to move stuff or cleaning equipment. I don't know. I literally there the day before. The next day, I found him by the tank all like show. I was like, which sucks because I've had him for a long time. He was amazing.
Ah,
So I'm gonna also probably get another copper band just because I love them. I think they're beautiful fish. But
who would you get them from?
originally,
No, like right now.
oh,
Let's say if you go.
I'm probably just ask the LFS to order me one in. I'll
I
usually
see.
like make them keep it for a week or two, make sure he's
Yeah.
healthy, and then make sure he's
Yeah.
eating. I've tell this one a lot to people with copper bands. Like in my opinion, manila clams is like a massive secret with them. If they're not
Hmm.
eating, go to a seafood market, get manila clams on ice, throw them in the freezer, and pop one in every few days. I've told so many people this, and I always see the copper bands going for it. And just gets them eating and lets them settle in. So
Really?
yeah,
And the Manila clam, is it just like a regular
yeah,
little white one?
just
Yeah.
small little grayish whatever clams. But
And do you like break it
yeah,
or?
I'm pretty sure they're still live at the seafood market, and I just throw them in the freezer and I just pop one in the tank every few days. And as it starts to, thaw or whatever, it'll open up, and then they just go crazy for them.
I will try to do this. For those folks that are familiar with my YouTube channel, they know the abysmal success I had in the last 4 or 5 months with copper bends. I
Mm,
think I've killed 5 of them. So it's just been, and it's the same scenario. I would go to LFS, so shout out to Big Al's and Steels, and
mm,
the fish would be eating
mm,
like no problem. I would look at it like it's voracious eater, this and that, and
yep.
I would bring it in, and it would eat for a day or two in my quarantine system, and then just less, and then just they will all wither away one way or the other. Some would
Are,
refuse eating right away, some after a while.
are you dosing anything in the quarantine system?
No, nothing.
So just chilling,
Yeah,
no premedicating. Do you have like stuff in there for like little tunnels or like PVC pipes and stuff like that?
I have like one big PVC pipe. Yes,
Okay.
so
Well, if you do try one again in the future, try getting some fresh mineral constant seafood mark and try that
yeah.
method because it's worked for me on, and I've had a couple copper bands over my time, and it's been pretty much
Hmm.
100% success with that.
Okay, I'll do that. So, but you wouldn't give it a fresh one because the fresh one would never open up in the
I've never
in
tried, to
the
be honest.
yeah.
I've
So
just
okay.
thrown it in. I've probably given it a fresh one. I probably have.
Hmm.
I've never actually thought about it. I just buy some,
So
throw them in the
I
freezer.
tried.
And
I went to like a local store, like the Asian market, and I picked
Mhm.
up a couple of clams, and I don't know the name, but it's fairly small ones, and
Yeah.
there was no interest whatsoever. So
Okay.
I did
Yeah.
every single thing in the book that they tell you to.
We'll
Yeah.
try the Manila because that's my go-to
Okay.
all time.
All right.
And I've
I
told a lot
will.
of people this, and they've all said it worked. So
I will make sure to do that
okay,
because I really
perfect.
want one. I love it.
Yeah, they're beautiful. You know, they get rid of any aptasia you might have in there. They're just
Hmm.
win-win, and they're just such a pretty fish.
Perfect.
So I was very sad when mine leaped. So, needless to say, I have ordered a top for that tank and for my
Yep.
nano tank. So I love the look of tanks without lids, but you got to keep your little creatures safe. So
It's true.
the Hello Reef Nano's getting a lid too. I'm getting one made.
Oh, really? How? Who did it for you?
Top lids in the past, I've got them to make
Hmm.
them. So I measured it up, and they're gonna come up with a nano Hello Reef one. So
Yeah, I'm surprised. It's definitely something that they should hopefully offer because especially if you have those tiny fish, maybe some of
yep.
them are jumpers. There you go.
You know what else is surprisingly a jumper is the ruby red dragonettes. Super tiny little guys. They're
Yeah.
crazy jumpers. I've seen in my old nanos like trying to leap out, and yeah, they're definitely jumpers.
So for me, I just had a jumper yesterday. I think I
Mm-hmm.
may even have a photo.
Oh,
It's the diamond goby.
oh yeah, they
So
can
the
jump.
ones that you use for the scent sifting and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, um, mine, yeah, right here. Let's see if you can kind of see it.
Poor
Yeah,
little crispy.
yeah.
Do you have a
So, and it's
lid
in
on your
my
tank?
quarantine. I do. I just after feeding him, I forgot to close it. So it's
Mm,
complete, and I left it like for
dang,
2 3 hours, and he just kind of went. That's it. This is my opportunity, and then I come back, and he's dead.
dang, that sucks.
Sucks every single time. So
Yep.
it's interesting. A little segue, or sorry,
Mm-hmm.
not segue, side quest where I thought about it the other day. Like you look at that fish and you feel really sorry, but yet if I go to a store and I get 5 of those little fishes, if I'm eating, I don't feel sorry. What
Because
kind
they're
of
not your pet.
well, technically, this guy wasn't really my pet either because I've only had him for 2 days or something like that. There's just something about this.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
Because you didn't plan on eating him. I don't know. But yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah,
Yep. Okay. So fish for this tank. Once it's a little more established, I will add a dragonette to it because I do love
hmm.
dragonettes.
Yes.
And I think I'm gonna once I have a lid first, I think I might try ruby red dragonette because I haven't had one of those in ages.
Would you mix it with another dragonet or no? Like with the Mandarin Gobi or something like that?
Good question. I do love like the
Or
psychedelic mandarins, but I do have one of my other tanks. I'll probably do a different one just to have different fish in the system.
yeah,
But
but you don't think the number of copy pods is gonna be not enough because maybe even one is
yeah,
yeah.
I mean it's only 100 gallons for this tank, so
Yeah.
I'll probably just do the one, but we'll see. unless I
Yeah,
got
the
like a
red
pair of
one
them
is
or something.
gorgeous,
Yeah.
gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So yes.
So that's likely that and a copper band are like the two that come to mind on the list for this tank.
Now I'm thinking I need a lid because if I would do like firefish, and there's like three different kinds. I was thinking maybe I would do one of each or something like that. But
Oh
those
yeah.
are big jumpers either.
Yep, they're jumpers too. Definitely get a lid. Well,
Yeah.
I'm getting Top Lids to design one for the Hello Reef, so they'll have the model for that soon.
Okay. Well,
Hey, it's
shout out
coming.
to them.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's in the works. Yeah, so I don't know, but yeah, definitely lids are important. It's pretty without them, but everyone should have one. Just keep your little buddies safe.
Very true.
Oh, I know. Okay, so I guess so. Back to our original topic of methods for running a reef tank. Refugium Chato, pro or against?
Well, I'm a little bit concerned about the that article that everybody's been talking about, the DOC, and the I think Adam covered it, and Reef Builders, where now Chato is kind of bad because it releases the DOC, but the cryptic tanks is good. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It kind of makes sense to me. I have been running the Chato just because of the nutrient export kind of thing,
Yep.
and I do love the fact, like the amount of copy pods in this thing is just insane. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just all crawling and all of this. Um, I don't know. I've seen amazing tanks that have it and many that don't.
Yep.
It kind of makes sense that it would compete with corals for some trace elements.
Oh
And
yeah, for
because
sure.
I'm not, like I've done ICP a few times, but I don't want to become a once every 2 week ICP tester per se and play with iron and other things. I think eventually I'm going to completely remove it from my system and just kind
Mm-hmm.
of rely on simplifying things even further. That's kind of my thinking.
I at
You?
one point had mine die off, and then I didn't
The
bother adding. Yeah, it died off
the
because I
potato?
was I didn't have enough
Really?
nutrients for a while, so it kind of died off, and I didn't have
Okay.
it for ages and ages and ages. And
Yeah.
then I got it the Trident NP, and then it made me realize how bad my nutrients were. So then I re-added
Mm.
Chato and like all the stuff to like get them back down to like proper levels.
What
So
were they? What were the parameters
it was
that you
high.
just kind of feel like? Okay, it's the confession reef confessional, so it's a
Um,
safe
Let me see how far back I can go in
zone right
the
there.
timeline. Fish Ventura,
Yeah.
thank you for the 4.9 super chat. Appreciate it, buddy.
Nice.
Okay, I will check. To see.
Yeah. So
I feel
yeah.
like it was like 70 something. It was high for an O3.
Oh,
It
interesting.
was up there.
You know what? I've been thinking a lot about this as well, and I always think that um, a lot of it has to do with the person that keeps the tank.
Hmm.
This is just some intangibles, some really minute things that we do that tend to sway our parameters one way or the other. So, for example, for me, nitrate has always been a problem where it just always bottoms out.
Hmm.
It's just whatever I do, I don't know what, but like I've never had a high nitrate problem ever in 15 years of doing the reefs. And yet some people kind of do that. But for me, phosphate, for example, is a problem. I cannot
Yep.
keep it in the range where I want
Too
right
high or
there.
too low?
So mostly too high, I would say.
Hmm.
On my farm, it's the opposite, but that's again, it's all kind of dialed in. It's a very established system. But on my other tank, I had my phosphates at like 0.4, and even right now, I think mine is somewhere near to that, and it's still like I'd like it lower, but I don't know what to do. So I'm
Yeah.
just kind of letting the nature take its course.
So that's the tricky bit. So the farm, you probably have enough coral mass that it just eats it
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so I was just trying to scroll back through the NP test log, and it looks like about
Hmm.
62-ish was the height of its glory.
Okay.
Possibly a little
Yeah,
bit higher, I think, at one point, but
that's legit. This is nothing to be scuffed on.
no. And then
Scuffed at.
same. And I used to always use GFO as well to take care of
Mm-hmm.
my phosphates. I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
use less of it lately,
Yeah.
and kind of went back to Chato because of that. And I think they're up to like point
Mm-hmm.
0.3. Yeah, I think it's 0.27 right now. So they're still higher than I'd like.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, that's
so
fair.
slowly working on it. But the same thing, you don't necessarily want to do a drastic change on the tank because that can also cause more trouble, right? So whenever you're changing these things, you do want to kind of ease yourself into it.
That's fair.
Yep.
Well, nitrate and then when you added the Chato, it helped right
Oh
away.
yeah. Yeah, no, it did because I mean, it takes a little bit to kick in, but yeah, no, it
Yeah.
definitely did help it because now I think it, what is it now? Much lower than it was.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is the problem. It was like ignorance is bliss, and now that I know how bad they were, I'm like, hey, I gotta fix it.
It's kind of remember in again back in the day when nobody had anything like, or you could
Hmm.
not even measure anything other than like really simple parameters. Yet there were many amazing reefers, and
Yep.
some of the coral back then I think were more colorful than they are right now.
Yeah. So
Mm.
the other, what's your thoughts on ICP testing? Do you do them? Do you think it's worth it?
I've done it for a while. Like I was on a big kicker on this one. I mean,
Mm.
it's very expensive, especially because there's like usually two, right? There's the
Mm.
regular one and the advanced one, and you want to have the advanced and this and that. I one issue I had, and this is where I did talk to Jake Adams about this. I had an actual problem on my farm a couple of years ago where everything was just dying, and I was
Mm.
documenting it and couldn't really figure out what it was. And then he called me and he basically said that it's copper. And I'm like, dude, I just did an ICP test and I showed him, and like, there's like no copper whatsoever.
Yeah.
And he's no, it's copper 100%. Use the HANA copper and to confirm and everything else. And he explained to me that certain things, they cannot really test for technical reasons.
Mm.
And guess what? Eventually, I found what the problem was. It was one of the pumps that cracked, and it was
Mm.
just leaking probably copper into the or heavy metals of some
Yep.
sort. Fixed it, fixed the problem, blah blah blah. But then it just kind of big question mark about the ICP. And at the same time, right when I was going through all of this, I would go to a local fish store, and the guy there was like, I just got my ICP, and it tells me I need to dose copper, and then he takes out the copper bottle and just throws a lot of it in the tank, and he had great colors. So I
Mm.
don't really know.
Hmm.
This is so probably it's a cool thing not to fix an issue. It's more to know if something is like completely out of certain range to draw
Yeah.
your attention to those type of things. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
a long-winded way to answer.
that's fair. I do plan on doing one soon, but I always have this
Hmm.
battle with myself. I'm like, for the
Yeah.
price of an ICP test, do I just buy a bucket of salt and just do a bunch of big water changes to reset it? Like, that's kind of like my mentality with a lot of it.
Yeah.
Now, it might not necessarily fix you being depleted in trace elements, right? But you'll
Yeah.
have some and it'll do it. So it's still good to do them periodically,
Yep.
but to do them all the time, I'm just like, or do you just do a water change and then it, kind of resets it a bit? I don't know. This is an internal mindset of mine that's always back and forth with myself.
That makes all the sense to me. I remember like Jason Fox in one of the podcasts, I think it was with Reef Bum. He basically said, when in doubt, just I believe in large water changes, and that works very well. And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
So far, probably one of the best advices I ever got in this hobby,
Yep,
because water changes basically you can solve almost any problem through dilution.
it's true. Unless you're super deficient in something. Now, the odds are you'll get
Yeah,
some of it through the water change, whether it's
yeah,
enough. So, I
yeah,
mean, there's still the argument that there's still good periodically to make sure you're not bottomed out on something.
yeah.
But, going back to the refugium thing, if
Hmm.
you are running Chato or Callirpa or a turf scrubber,
Yeah,
they're going to be sucking out iron and
yeah.
molybdenum and, some other ones. Those are the main two. But if you're not dosing those, you're
Hmm.
probably going to be deficient in them. And, that could
Yes.
turn into your coral suffering later.
You make me want to go downstairs and remove my Chato now. So I think I might
Hey,
actually do it this weekend.
but if you have high nutrients, Chato's your friend, right?
Or you can still do dilution, and their dilution actually works very well. It's going to cost you some, but
Mm-hmm.
you know it will work very well, and the corals, the net result is going to be net positive.
That's fair.
So yeah,
All right, Richard. Unless your salinity is wrong, fair point. Chopping and pouring glass hydrometer is a must-have for cross-reference. Yeah, you don't need to calibrate it. The thing just works. Like,
I got
unfortunately,
one.
I broke mine. I need a new one. I'm gonna add it to my
I
cart
got
right now.
one a
Nice.
few months ago. I think it's the Tropic Marine one,
Yep.
and oh my god, it's a game changer.
Do
It sucks to use. I hate every single time I use it
you need like
because
a
you
big
have to.
cylinder or turn off
Uh,
your flow?
yeah, I turn off the flow. I couldn't really figure out where to do the cylinder thing, and then also, like it's. Do people make the cylinders? Or did
Yeah,
you?
just buy like the plastic. You can glass or plastic. Like the graduated cylinders, the big tube
Yeah,
ones. Yeah, just get like a nice big chunky one. Then just scoop with water and drop it in, or turn off all the flow in
and
your tank. But that's more effort.
yeah, this is the kind of what I was doing, and I absolutely despise it because nowadays even the turning off the flow is very very hard on the tanks that are automatically controlled.
Yep.
So it's a pain.
Yeah. 500 mil graduated plastic cylinder from Amazon. There you go. Easy fix.
All
Just
right.
scoop it up and then put it in. My, I don't know why I bought it, but it was on sale. Latest reefing toy is I bought the Milwaukee one with that little disc you put the drop on, salinity
Yeah,
checker.
I have it.
Yeah, I decided to
So,
get one of those. They've been out for
Uh,
ages, and I decided to be fancy and finally buy one.
so check out. I did several videos on the salinity. The last one I did was a few years ago. But so at home I have several problems. I have a problem with the magnetic cleaners. I have probably 30 of them. Every single one that I think I've ever seen, like I just buy them because I think this is going to be the best thing, and most of the time they're not. And then
Glass scrapers, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the grass scrapers, and then
Wait,
the
wait. But
salinity.
before
Yeah,
you go on, what
please.
are you currently using? What's your favorite out of the 30 you've tried?
You know what? I switched back. So I use two. I use surprisingly the water box one is
Mm-hmm.
actually very nice. I do like it a lot, and I do it for like regular every other day cleaning. The only issue I have with it, I think it's maybe a little bit too strong, and I'm always kind of concerned about
Hmm.
the glass.
Yeah.
But I just find that with it, I probably have less chances of scratching. Like scratching is the worst thing that you can do, and
Oh,
I've done it
yes.
too many times. And the one that is my go-to for every month or whatnot, or on my
Mm-hmm.
farm, is the one I had for about 20 years. Is the Mac Float one,
Yeah.
fat one, but where you would take the razor blades and
Mm-hmm.
you would glue it, and then you can just kind of replace it. It's rusty. There's all this stuff, but oh my god, like this thing is a dream. Because nowadays nobody's using the real blades because of probably is safety or
Mm-hmm.
getting sued or something like that. But it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
You? What do you
Um,
use?
I
Tunzi?
have a Tunzi on the
Yeah,
Nios and the
yeah.
Nano, and I have the Flipper Edge Max on the water box.
Yeah, so I had that one. I have every single one of theirs, the double, the regular ones, and everything else. And I had it scratch my tank, which,
Really?
yes, it does not make any sense whatsoever because
Was
there's
there a
no way.
snail on it?
No, there was nothing.
No.
And I'm meticulous about my, like, I never keep them inside of the tank. I always
Hmm.
clean it and everything else. But there is something where something happens and
No good.
I would scratch it, and like when that happened to me, I think the second time, I'm like out, at least for now. So I
Hmm.
don't want to,
Un- Unless the blade rusted or something. I don't know. It's
no, no, no,
I
no, nothing whatsoever.
s-
So I don't know.
scratches scare me. It's like my biggest reefing fear. I hate a scratch in a tank.
Yeah,
Yep.
especially if it's a new one. But coming back
Hmm.
to salinity, so on
Yes.
my YouTube channel, I did two videos.
Hmm.
First one, and then a lot of people wrote in, and I took some results and just kind of changed it a little bit to be a bit more scientific. But I've prepared the proper. First of all, there's the salinity and specific gravity and all of that stuff. But I've
Hmm.
prepared the solution with the grams, so temperature, everything else, and then I
Hmm.
have probably 8 different ways to measure salinity. And so I have like 3 or 4 of the optical ones, and I have that Milwaukee one, but
Hmm.
also have the two HANA ones that are the same. So the
Yep.
ones that you drop. and I have also the connectivity HANA ones, and I've got
Hmm.
something else, and I put them all to test.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, so definitely check out that video. It's one of like it's a pretty popular one, but the end result was you want to throw almost everything out of the window. Like the ranges that it gives you are to the point where you will kill all of your corals if you just kind of start switching back
Yep.
and forth now. So the most accurate for me was
Hmm.
similar to what you have right now, the Milwaukee one, but it's
Yep.
actually the Hana.
Hmm.
I found the Hana was actually a
The
lot more
pen ones
consistent.
or the like
No,
the
no,
little
not
white?
the pen ones.
Okay.
It's the same thing as the Milwaukee. It's the same form factor. It's just
Oh,
white, and it's the Hana one. And for the longest time, I was always using that one. To me, that was the gold standard. And I
yeah.
have two of them, so I bought two, so that because I always just double check things. So my process is, I take the salinity, I drop it onto both of them, I press the button,
Yeah.
and then I kind of make the half point between the what the two of them show.
Hmm.
And yeah.
How often do you calibrate all said methods?
Well, those are super easy to calibrate, right? Because you can do distilled water
Hmm.
calibration. So it takes 3 seconds
Yeah.
to do. So I do that fairly regularly.
Hmm.
But all of this has been completely untouched after I got my hydrometer. Because
Yeah.
to me, just conceptually,
Hmm.
that makes the most sense. It's such a pain to do,
Yeah.
but I just turn off, I do it, and it gives me like peace of mind. I'm like,
Yeah.
give me 25. It's a pain to read as well because of that meniscus
Meniscus. Yeah.
thing and all of that stuff, but yeah, whatever. So, and it floats, like you have to
Yeah.
wait for a while for it to just
Hmm.
kind of do that.
So, which is funny because if I have multiple methods that are disagreeing, then that would be
Yeah.
like, okay, which one's true by using like
Yes.
the Tropic Marin one to a
Yeah.
sense. But it made me laugh because I have like the one Hana pen one, which was my
Yeah.
go-to for a while. And
Oh,
then I lost it and I bought another one. So now I have two of them that just float around and I find them and lose them on a constant basis. But the nice thing is at least I can calibrate them all at the same time in the same solution. And but yeah, I got the Milwaukee one, so I've been using that one the last little while.
yeah, the HANA one did not never worked well for me. It was
Yeah.
always showing, I think, either lower, but it was just not even consistent. Like after a certain
Yeah.
point, it's more of a maybe just to see if some things are completely out of range, or maybe if you're checking, the
Mm.
salt water in the fish tank. It's like a fish bag. If you just brought another fish,
Yeah.
that's kind of where it makes sense. But I would
Mm.
not trust it. So
Mine overall was pretty good. Like I'd probably calibrate once a month, and it was reasonably accurate overall. And when I had both of them, I'd put them both in and see if it was,
yeah,
if it's more than like zero point 0.1 off, then I'd be like, okay, what's up? But if it's within,
yeah. So
1.025, 1.026, like, yeah, it's fine. But
okay, yeah. So I have two of those as well for
yeah.
that reason.
Oh, it's funny. How often do you actually check your salinity? This is something I neglected for a long time, and eventually it was off and bit me a little bit, and it took a bit to correct it. So now I try to do it a little more frequently, but I find a lot of people get complacent and neglect it to
Yeah,
check it.
this is a big one because the repercussions are pretty bad. I also have a mechanical thermometer as well that I
Hmm.
always use to just kind of this is the gold standard if needed, but I also have the digital ones that are quite
Yep.
great.
Hmm. Yeah, so I don't know. It's something that people should check because if your salinity is off,
Yeah,
everything is off. It's going to affect the whole scale of where your stuff are. So it is
yeah,
important. And it's something, if you're testing your tank, you might as well test salinity while you're at it and make sure everything's still in proper
couldn't
range.
couldn't agree more.
Yep. Earlier when we were talking too about, like Kalkwasswer and all this stuff, if you're doing automatic water changes, those pumps could be a smidge out of calibration and over time
Yeah.
it's going to slowly drift.
Oh,
Or if you're dosing more Kalkwasswer than you're evaporating, or temperatures, evaporation rates
yes.
change again, all these things are going to very slowly affect your salinity. If you're dosing two part, you're adding salt to your system,
Yep.
and that's going to change, right? So there's all these little things that can slowly affect it over time, and if you never check it, you're not going to know to fix it, or start being a little more proactive on it. So
That was exactly my experience.
yep. Yeah, so I don't know. I've went far too long without checking it, and then it bit me, and then I try to fix it. Then of course I probably fixed it quicker than I shouldn't have. Like ideally you want to fix things slowly,
Yeah.
but Yep, I know. Uh, what else we got for methodology on reef tanks?
Have you ever used the Karl and Zucht, the KZ stuff?
I've used some of it.
Yeah, everybody tried the all those fancy
The,
names,
the
right?
flatworm stop and the coral
Yeah,
booster.
yeah, the Coral Booster.
Yep, I used that
Um,
blend for a while. Have you?
I I tried a few of them, and it's always very anecdotal, right? So speaking of read methodology, the I was listening to Adam on his latest podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and there were talks about the aminos also being detrimental. So he had a guest that was basically kind of bringing this up, and I'm kind of thinking, this is the go-to for a lot of new people in the hobby, but also like everybody swears by whatever brand of aminos that they do, but maybe we're actually doing more harm. um, I did last year. Actually, for about a year before that, I was trying to do like some new method of
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Like if everybody tells you let's dose aminos, I would dose aminos for a month, and I
Mm-hmm.
would document it on YouTube, so basically everybody can see. And then I would do benepets, and I would do whatever the next thing was. And at a certain point, I just kind of stopped because it was the summer of last year, and I
Yeah.
stopped doing anything. And like 3 months later, I'm going downstairs and I'm just looking at the corals, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the best corals I've ever seen. Like, I mean, this is
When you stop
it's
doing all the
when I stopped
trends.
doing everything. So yes.
Now,
So I yeah.
now, is it because the trends weren't doing anything, or is it because you stopped messing with your tank for a few months and it's just happy that it's not changing every month to month with a new experiment?
I think it's probably just good water changes, and then not
Mm-hmm.
relying on anything else. Like
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I for a while actually, some of it has to do with watching your interviews with like I think Cunningham, or like where basically it was like all these concoctions, right? So he's doing all this
Mm-hmm.
food that he does, and I'm like, hey, I can do that, right? So I go in and I buy every single liquid food, and I do all of those things. I enjoy doing it, and I was just like meticulously doing it every day,
Yeah.
consistently. And what happened was I started to get all those. I think it's hydroid things that live inside of like
Mm-hmm.
Montipora or whatever, that
Yep.
you never see because most of the time like they're non-existent. But with all these filter feeders were like, hey,
Buffet
somebody's
time.
yeah, feeding us.
Yep.
So it just completely ballooned up, and I got all these different creatures that I didn't want in my tank. So I have no idea how happy the corals were, but
Mm-hmm.
all those things were definitely not good. And we're kind of playing. It's almost like with it was Australia where they had no rabbits, and they put in the rabbits, and then the rabbits, they had to bring in the foxes and everything else. Like, I mean, you always think better, but it
Mm-hmm.
kind of makes sense in the time, but who knows?
Yep. No, it's true. One thing goes to the next, to the next, to the next.
Yeah.
So with aminos, like I have some friends that absolutely swear by it. They stop
Hmm.
dosing it. They'll notice a difference. Like corals have better colors.
Yeah.
I personally feel like too much aminos can cause cyano and cause other
Yes.
issues in a tank for
Yes.
sure. Um,
But
so with what you feed, I feel makes a big difference. If you're just feeling
hmm
like flakes and pellet, you're not really getting much aminos from it. And then I think that is where you'll see more of a benefit of dosing it.
yeah.
I feed pretty heavily when frozen foods, and I kind of feel like I get aminos from the fish food in a sense. So I don't think that there's much benefit on my side from doing it, but that's
Yeah.
kind of one of my thoughts. Like if you feed a lot of frozen that has it in it, I
Yeah.
don't really think you need to dose aminos. But yeah, if you're feeding dry pellets, then I think
And when
there's more
you
benefit.
dose frozen, are you talking more like those prepared cubes like hikari and the other ones, or
Yeah.
something else?
I primarily feed mysis as the main one,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I'll do cannula sometimes and then the other stuff. But
Yeah.
mysis is kind of like my staple.
Do you thaw it out and rinse it, or you just kind of throw the cubes in?
And then throw it in. Break off a
Yeah.
chunk, put in a little cup of salt water. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe I wouldn't have a nutrient issue if I actually rinsed it, but I
Yeah.
it's probably a smart idea to do it, but I also feel that all those little bits of particles and stuff are just like more coral fluid that I don't necessarily want to rinse away.
Yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha. That's
I don't
true.
know. How about you? What do you think? What do you feed?
Lately it's been primarily pellets. Only whenever I have, let's say, a fish I need to fatten up. Even then, I think the pellets is kind of the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the big game changer was a method that I was taught by a good friend of mine, where you take every single pellet that you can lay your hands on. So there's
Mm-hmm.
like 8 different ones, and I just put 1 scoop of each one of them, and then I add some vitamin C, some multivitamin, mix it up, and then I add the silicone, so
Mm-hmm.
which makes everything kind of juicy and slightly moist.
Yep.
And then I just prepare a certain thing that's gonna like a cup that's gonna last me say 5 days. I keep it
Mm-hmm.
in the fridge, and then every single time I just go in and I throw it in the tank with my hands. And this
Nice.
is in addition to like the feeders
Yep.
and other things that I do in the nori,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So that really helped. But when you were talking about the frozen food, the thing that I always wanted to do, and I'm just don't have time to, ideally, the simplest solution is probably going to the store, getting a little bit of squid, a little bit of mussels, a little bit of everything, chop it up in a certain
Mm-hmm.
blender, and then try to either freeze it up or just give them fresh with all the
Yep.
variety. Like that's probably the best possible option
Yep.
with some spirulina or something.
In the chat, Ryan saying maybe all the pellets are the reason for high phosphates. But yeah, pellets definitely do have more phosphates and stuff in them. Frozen technically has less, in general.
Unless you don't thaw it
Wow,
or rinse it. No?
maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's like probably it's lake water in there. I don't know what it is. Ironically, it
That
comes
should
out of the
be.
lake that I can see out the window of my house. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they're eating
Which is
local.
amazing. Yeah.
But it's freshwater mysis, right? Go feeding
Yes.
saltwater fish. But
Yes.
yeah.
Wow. That's actually counterintuitive to me for whatever reason. I always think that, like, I always feel that those cubes pack a lot more phosphate than the same amount of pellets. I may be wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
this is the gut feeling I have, and just by feeding,
See,
I noticed that.
my mind's the opposite on that one. I think
Yeah.
the pellets pack a lot more phosphates. The other one
Hmm.
I've been trying the last little while is the reef jerky, which is kind of the one that comes with a vast plank feeder. So I've been using that for a while, which is a pretty cool feeder. So I've been trying their freeze dried reef jerky with
What
it.
is it? Whoa. Tell me.
I don't know where the
I
bag is to read it, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically a bunch of freeze dried fish food.
Okay, and then they have a different type of feeder themselves.
Yeah, yeah, they
Oh,
have like
really?
a
Okay.
yeah. I did a video on it probably about a month ago, a few weeks
Okay.
back,
I
but
will.
it's
I
pretty
will
slick.
go back and check it out for sure.
Yeah, so far it's probably one of the coolest feeders ever used. It's not cheap. I bought it when it was on sale, but
Yeah.
it has like a lead screw, like little cog thing in the bottom of it,
Yeah.
and then it has like little little wheels on it, so it kind of like rotates it
Really?
through. So there's bigger and
Okay.
smaller particles, so you get a big mix of sizes, which I think is pretty cool with it.
I will check it out.
Yeah,
This is something I definitely believe in is variety in
yeah.
fishing. Sorry, in feeding.
Okay, let me read their sales pitch page. Complete nutrition for fish and corals. Reef jerky is a blend of whole animal marine plankton designed to
Ah.
appeal to feeding small mouth planktivores such as anthias, wrasses, cardinal fish, as well as corals. Freeze dried upon harvest. But yeah, it's just
Mm-hmm.
like high quality proteins, fatty acid, antioxidants, color enhancing carotenoids. But yeah, I know it's just a big blend of freeze dried stuff, and
Yeah.
I don't know. So far, it seems pretty cool in there. Um,
I have a little. Do you see a YouTube page right now with the chat? I have a little pet peeve. That heart on the right
oh yeah,
bottom side.
yep,
It blocks the text. I've done a few live streams where like I'm
yep.
trying to read what the person wrote and I cannot read it
You
because
got to make the window
there's this
wider.
thing. So
But yeah,
yeah,
no, I
like
agree.
so like I have this thing running on my iPad right now, and it's just like, oh my god, that's just
I
silly.
know. Oh yeah, sorry, John. He's complaining about ads. It's a big pop up saying viewers may see ads at different times. So it's like they're always messing with it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Alyssa, I didn't see a difference in dosing aminos. again, I really think it depends on what you feed your tank and if you already have them. And if they're
Hmm.
already getting aminos, I don't think dosing it really gives you much. But if they're deficient in it and you add them, then you can see some color enhancement. That's my
Yeah,
theory.
I would agree with that.
Yep. Do salmon and shrimp doing recipes shared on Reef Pump stream. Well, I've never tried making my own frozen food. I should do that one day.
Hmm.
Have you?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of
I've
said it,
tried
but
it. I've tried it a little bit,
mm-hmm.
but I have a friend who kind of got into the hobby, and he's very meticulous, and he actually did an amazing job. Like, because he kind of went by the book, and yeah, I was
Mm-hmm.
actually get some from him, and it was
Perfect.
remarkable. So
I need
yes,
I need one of those friends.
yeah. So unfortunately, his tank leaked, and then he basically ruined the day when he got into the hobby, and he never had another tank. So there you go.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I like flake, but it's easy to overfeed. Yeah, I've never actually fed flake to saltwater.
Hmm.
When
So
Wincy did, I
yeah,
remember on her, she would dump in tons of flake. I was like,
I did like I have some flakes for sure, but it's kind of messy, and I'm not sure how much of it they kind of go for, and how much of it just kind of floats away and then decomposes. So
yep, no, so true. But yeah, most things, varieties the spice of life, for feeding different particle sizes, different
yeah,
fish meal size. Like, I'm a big fan of just mixing it up. I don't really necessarily have a standard. Like, I generally feed nori a few
yep,
times a week. I
yep.
tend to feed frozen most times. And, I got the reef jerky on this tank. If I'm away
I
around
will
stuff, I'll do
definitely check it out.
pells. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. It's a really cool product. I think you like it. Slightly expensive. Wait for a
Mm-hmm.
good sale if you're gonna get one. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's a really cool feeder.
I will definitely do that.
Yep. Do. Yeah. Anything else we should touch on? I think got about 5 minutes, so we got to wrap her up. But
Well, yes, I actually just wanted to ask for your opinion and maybe your viewers.
mhm.
So, for folks that know me or don't know me, so other than just having the YouTube channel, the treasure corals and whatnot, I am an avid reefer, but I also developed an app called Aquatic Log. So this is it's my 11th year coding for it, so I do
Nice.
all the development myself, and basically it's an app to keep track of all of your parameters. So it's actually
Nice.
hooked up right now to Apex. I
Yep.
can actually see everything here, and then it gives a little bit of recommendation and other things. But what I'm thinking about is kind of what are the features that somebody as experienced as,
hmm
as you would be interested in having an app for.
You
Like
just said you have it hooked up to Apex.
yes,
Does it pull measurements from your Apex, or do
yes,
you? Okay, so you log it in Apex, then, and the app auto sucks it in.
yes, and I do it very old school way because you actually have to know what a translation is and all of that
hmm
stupid stuff
Yep.
because they haven't really opened up the API. It's still it's still legal what I'm doing because this is something that they've built
Yeah.
kind of for that purpose. But then it was way before the fusion and everything else, and that would
hmm
make things a lot nicer. But it still exists, and I rely on that for sure.
hmm Nice. I have completely separate to this, but I
Yeah,
have something I use called Home Assistant, and I pull in some of my readings from the Apex to that, so I can see it at a
yeah,
glance.
yeah.
But so I guess before asking what features you want, what features does it do? Like, give me the quick rundown on it because I haven't used it yet. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So, well, the main thing is it's a way to keep track of your parameters, right?
hmm
So, because a lot of things still is manual process, you can kind of bring up like a plus button, and then if you've done like three different things at once, you can just key them in here. There's a little timer, save
Yep.
it, right? The whole premise was when I started the hobby, 12, 13 years ago, the
hmm
most important thing was keeping track of your parameters. And I built first the website, and then it became an iPhone and Android app, and I do all of it myself.
Nice.
Now, the cool things as well is there is a database of all the inhabitants and fish and coral, all of that good stuff. and
Hmm.
you can browse it. It's categorized, and you can add it. And cool thing is, you can actually see what other people are doing. So if you go to aquaticlog.com, which
Hmm.
is a website,
I'm on
you
there
can actually
now.
search
Yep.
for, let's say, a fish or a product. So you put in MP40, and then you'll see every aquarium that has MP40. So it's
Hmm.
a cool way to learn from other people's aquariums. Like the
Yep.
inspiration for that was like Reef Central back in the day, when people would get an award. I think I got an award in 2015 for my tank.
Nice.
For me, this was the most exciting thing, to go to see somebody else's aquarium
Hmm.
and then read all those different things about what, not only their parameters, but what fish or what products they use, the lighting and everything
Yeah.
else. And this is kind of the live version of this, where people kind of upload it themselves.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the main thing that it does.
Yep.
You can follow other people if you wanted to, like if they made it public, the profile, because you can
Yep.
also have it private, and just keeps track of. Oh, and reminders. The big thing is, you can set up reminders to check your, clean your filter, or
Hmm.
replace your X, or do whatever.
Yep.
Or feeding reminders, or dosing reminders in the app. So all of this is done here, or water changes.
Okay. So a couple things from the chat. Um, can you
Ooh.
do cross comparison, like overlay charts?
That is, I'm actually redoing charts right now. So I'm working
Hmm.
on a new version that's going to have much more dynamic charts. This is
Yep.
the feature that I am working on right this minute, as a matter of fact. So, yes.
Excellent. Okay. Do. Can you take results from ReefBot? Actually, that's a good one. From Focustronic,
Yeah.
like a Mastertronic, Alcatronic, or ReefBot.
Yeah.
Is there a way to suck in those results? That could
As
be like
if
a cool addition if it's not.
if they have a public API,
Hmm.
basically to non-techies, it's a way where I can go into a certain website, internal or private or whatever, where you permission, I can actually scrape that information. Then
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
I support. Reef Keeper and Reef, and there was another one, Reef Angel. I
Mhm.
supported with both of them, but then now they're no longer in business.
Yeah.
So if they do, it's only a few days of work, and I will integrate it. The whole thing works with as many as you want.
Very cool. Is this
Yeah.
free? Is it paid?
So it's free for one aquarium. So I
Okay.
tried every single kind of experiment, and then
Yep.
eventually I just went very simple. For
Yep.
one aquarium, you can do anything you want, except for you cannot do too many photos, just because I pay for hosting.
Fair
If
enough.
you have more than one aquarium, it's $30 a year.
Hmm.
And my pitch is, if you have one aquarium, you have much bigger problems than paying $30 for the service. So
Fair
that's
enough. All right. Can you upload all the photos you want on a fancy account?
yeah. So
Okay.
yes, you can. So
Sounds good. Okay, Phil says he should be able to Hydros imports Alcatronic and KH Keeper Info. Yeah, so they do have APIs. So
I will. I should talk to Carlos then, and see what's up.
yeah,
Maybe that could be
and
an
I think
integration for sure.
yep, definitely. I think so because having a good sales, pitch at least in my mind
Yeah,
too is when you
yeah.
have different testers, different brands, everything, and it could suck in all the
Hmm.
results from everywhere all into one, pane of glass is a good one. That's my thoughts for
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing that I was always I found limiting with Apex is
Hmm.
that there's no bird's eye view of multiple aquariums.
Yeah.
It kind of is like they have this strange page there, like if you go one up where you have a list, but it's just
Hmm.
the way it's laid out. It's impossible to read and to glance where your salinity is on two different aquariums.
Hmm.
So that's actually one of the things I do on this thing, because it's hooked up and it checks. I can see everything with multiple aquariums on one thing. And if
Yeah.
something is outside of my range that I set for high and low, it will actually be in red, and I'm gonna look at it and just kind of go, okay,
Hmm.
there's an issue of some sort.
Nice. That's cool. Hey,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
if you manage a ton of tanks, actually, that's kind of a cool feature too, right? Because there's a quick glance of, okay, what's out of
that's
whack? What do
exactly
I got
right.
to look at?
Yes, yes.
All right. I see the pitch. I like it. Very cool.
Well, I try it out both on Android and iPhone. I develop
Yeah.
for both, and then let me know, what you want to change, and I'll take care of you. So there you go. That's my
Beautiful.
little pitch.
No, sounds good. All right, I will play with it later. I'm curious now. I feel like I might have signed up before. I don't know. I'll try it though.
Probably did. So yes, if you
Yep.
search for Reefdudes, your tank may come up.
It might have been one of my names before though.
Yeah. So
Before I started ReefDudes. We'll see. Maybe, maybe
nice.
not. We'll see. We'll find out. I'll play with it.
Yeah. Thanks,
do, do,
Alisa.
do. Awesome. Talked about that little. Oh, have you seen that little frozen food feeder that was coming
Which
out
one?
for like 5 years, and now it's supposedly outish? I don't know. It feeds little frozen cubes, I think.
No. How is it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Lisa just said she saw it at Wrap.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm curious if anyone has one, tries
Yeah.
one. I'm curious to know how it is. But yeah.
Very nice.
All right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it today. If you want to have some more toys to play with, check out Aquatic Log and give her a whirl. If you want to check out some Dimitri's content as well, we have links in the description.
Treasure corals. Yeah. So yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So your YouTube and Instagram are both linked in the description. So
No, this is YouTube, and then the other one is how many people have logged into Aquatic Log in the last, I think, a few hours. So yes.
that's a fancy toy. I like it.
Yeah. So I programmed that as well. So
Yeah. That's awesome. Very cool. All right, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it today. As always, you did hit that like button. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you check out Dimitri's channel/app. And yeah, we will see you guys on next week's live stream.
yeah, it should be 10,000 subscribers hopefully in the next couple of months. So so if you
Beautiful.
guys are more than welcome to do that. So
Solid gold. I
Devin,
like it.
always a pleasure. Thank you. Good luck with your tanks, and I'll be picking your brain about the Hello Reef. And for anybody who has ideas for such a small tank, throw them, share with Devin or with myself, and we'll try to incorporate it. So thank you so much.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.